Hello there everybody, it is me Leo and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So today we're building a fun little community hangout called the Shaka Brah Beach Bar. Shaka Brah is a reference to the Sims 3 Island Paradise in case you guys didn't get it, but I am so excited because this is one of two builds that I'm doing for the Brindleton Baes Collab. It's basically a group collab between 7 Simmers, including myself, Devin Bumpkin, Gavin Sims, Irrelevant Sims, Harry, Penelope, Pineapple, and Simlissy. I always call Pineapple Penelope accidentally. That's her real name, by the way. But anyway, all of us came together and we pretty much decided to rebuild the entire world that came with The Sims 4 Cats and Dogs, Brindleton Bae, from scratch. So we decided to call this collab Brindleton Bae, spelled with a B-A-E, and it's just really exciting. I'm so proud to be a part of this amazing group of people, and I really learned a lot from watching them do their builds as well. So I will be linking down all of their videos, all of their channels in the description below. I think linking down all the videos would be a little bit too long. There are 16 lots in Brindleton Baes, so that would be a very long description. So I will be linking down their channels instead, and I will also be linking down my other build for this collab as well in the description. Also, when this collab finishes, there's gonna be a compiled version. It's gonna be a save file with all of the lots rebuilt, courtesy of Harry. So I will be linking that as well in the description once she is done with it. So, I think I've said pretty much all I needed to say in terms of the collab itself. So let's go ahead and talk about the build. So the style that I went with is kind of like bohemian, shipwrecked, beach bar meets crab shack, colorful, tropical, all of those keywords. If basically you got all of those, you would pretty much have a good idea of what I was going for. But basically, I wanted to make this kind of like open air pavilion right next to the beach. I wanted to give it this thatch roof, but I also wanted it to feel very modern and contemporary. So I added this glass roof panel in the middle, and I also really detailed the structural parts of this build. As an aspiring architect, I just really had fun doing like the structural components, like the different wooden posts and columns and beams, and I wanted them all to connect, and seeing that makes it look a lot more realistic, even though they really don't have a purpose in The Sims 4 other than to be decorative. But I really like that aspect of realism that I incorporated into this build. So this build is actually very detailed. That's why it took me a very long time to finish it, almost 3 hours, which, considering this build is relatively small in scale, 3 hours is a very long time to spend. The roof, there's really nothing special about it. I went for this Dutch gable in front, and then in the back I just went for a plain gable, and then on either side there's this extended roof pieces that are really fun to look at. And over here I am basically detailing these beams, and I am giving them some thickness using the, I'm not really sure what it's called. It's like it's like one of the linings for the walls. I use those to really emphasize the beams. And originally I wanted to go for like a predominantly wood themed for this build, but eventually I just decided to go all out and just make everything super colorful. So I found this really nice kind of like light blue-green color option for the fence that came with Cats and Dogs, and I just went with it, and from there I just made everything into crazy colors. So that was a decision that I definitely did not regret, because I think it made this build really special overall. It gives it this like ray of sunshine into this otherwise very monotonous looking world. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are getting tired of all of the New England style buildings that have been done in Brindleton Baes. So I thought, why not do something a little bit more colorful and tropical to kind of mix things up a little bit. So that is what I did. I also added this extra part over here at the back. And this little room over here is going to be the toilets. And then there's this trellis area over here that I thought was a fun little addition as well. From the front, the entire build looks very symmetrical, but when you actually turn to the side, it really doesn't. So that's that. Underneath this trellis area, there's going to be a special dating area. So I did put that little area over there. And once again, I'm putting these wooden posts just to make everything a little bit more realistic as well. So I'm putting in this trellis fence that came with Get Together. And I just wanted to have this private space for couples that are on a date and want to have some privacy. And I'm using some really colorful wall panelings over here in the bathroom area. I used some greens, red, and blues, and I thought that that just made it look really nice and bright. So one of the items that I really wanted to add first was this kind of like bar cabinet that came with Get Together. I do eventually replace that with something a little bit better, but speaking of bars, this lot is a functional bar, so when you download it, all of the requirements for a bar venue will be provided for. And okay, so I'm using these really fun tiki bars that are actually like a special bonus content for pre-orders or something. I think these might have come with like the limited edition or something. I've never used those before, but I've used them now and I'm really happy. Finally, some good use for the money that I paid. No, just kidding. I didn't buy those initially in pre-orders or anything. I just upgraded my game for like really cheap so that I can get those bars. I also extended like that staircase area just to have a little bit more space so that it would be a little bit less cramped. So this is where I changed that bar cabinet into this restaurant equipment kitchen set. So basically, we agreed that I was gonna build like a beach bar, but I also wanted it to be possible to easily change this into a restaurant as well. So I put a couple of items that are required for restaurants, except for the podium. That's the only thing I didn't place because I couldn't find a good place for it. But everything else is there. So if you guys want to make this a restaurant, you will be easily able to transform it into a restaurant as well. You just have to add a podium. And then above the kitchen thing, I also put like these cascading flower boxes that look really good. By the way, because I did like the exposed beams and posts, you can see from the inside of the pavilion, the glass roof, and it just looks really nice and modern. I also did this thing where I combined these different items using these pot holders, and in between them I also put like an extra beam because I wanted it to look like it's actually attached to something. But I also put like these cascade of flower shelves that came with cats and dogs. And you know, I'm just inventing different words like flower shelves and, you know, bar shelf. I'm like, I don't even know. I am not really... I had a really late night last night with a friend, so forgive me, you guys. But anyway, we're gonna get through this, okay? So for the lighting, it's just fun lights. I used these ones that came with kids room stuff, I believe, or parenthood, whatever, and they're just so much fun. They're these like set of 3 lanterns, and they're just so much fun. I'm fussing right now because I want to place them properly, so that's why it's taking me a while to actually place them, because I want to like, you know, I want to just place them so that it looks like it's attached to the beams. That's why I'm taking forever. And I'm also putting these like beaded curtains that made this whole thing look really bohemian, but I really, really liked how it looked like in the end as well. I also changed those into like an ombre color, so it came out really nice. I'm really happy with it. And for the bar stools, I just went for a similar style with every bar stool, but I did change all of the colors because yeah, I wanted it to look really nice and festive, and that's why. Also, let's see here. I also put this skateboard item that I sized up. I was kind of pretending that was surfboards instead of skateboards. That is a skateboard, right? Pennyboard. But I was pretending that was a surfboard, and I used those as kind of like a sign. The bottommost board, though, it didn't quite attach to the beam, so I'm using these lights that came with pets and cats and dogs. Pets, same thing, but I'm using these lights because they have this really long string, and it really looks like it's kind of like connecting all of it, which made me so happy. And I did try to figure out what was the ideal logo to put in front of this, but eventually I did decide to use this, I believe this is Base Game neon tropical sign, which is really nice. I also realized that I can use some of the hanging fairy lights as well as the Diwali bonus lights. I use a combination of those two items to actually outline the whole perimeter of this pavilion, and it just looks like it's covered in really bright lights, and it just came out looking really nice. So you guys can see that I'm doing this trick where I'm actually placing walls first so that I don't have to individually press the 9 key every time I want to like raise up all of these hanging lights. So I'm putting these walls inside because it just makes life so easier. So I did put all of those hanging lights around the build off camera because it just took me too much time. But I also realized that these hanging net clutter items that came with cats and dogs would also be a really good detail. So in one corner, I actually put those instead of the hanging lights, and it just looked really nice and fun and beachy and nautical, and that just made me so happy. I'm also using these windows that came with cats and dogs as well to add a little bit of detail, and this is where I'm using these corbel brackets, and I'm putting them to make it look like it's supporting the roofs. So I just thought that was a really nice detail as well. Oh, and I also put this crab sign. It just looks so fun. I love the facial expression of that crab. It just looks so happy holding those, I'm gonna say nectar. And I believe that's supposed to be like a menu or something. And it just looks so much fun. So I also put these corbels on the backside of the roof as well because I just wanted it all to be cohesive. And I really like the contrast between the red roof paneling and the really, really bright blue-green corbels. And I also put some hanging lights on either side just to make it look really nice. And this is a nice little roof detail that I also added eventually. I felt like the roofs on the side looked a little bit flat, so I've added some extra gables facing these staircase areas, and I just felt like it looked really nice. And eventually I chose this really nice, really light blue color because I wanted to have a lot of color in the build itself, so I decided to go for that. And on the inside, I did some modification. I changed the color of the tiki bars from that really yellow color into this more brownish color. And then I wanted to have some separation between kind of like the kitchen bar area from the public area where all the customers are supposed to be. So I used some fences and half walls just to have that option to lock these fences in case you guys don't want, other people to be in the kitchen or whatever. If you're actually managing this as a restaurant, that would be really, really handy. So you can have the option to lock the fences if you want a little bit more privacy for your staff as well. And then I also did some mixed matched tables and chairs. So I'm using a lot of tables. I think it's different combinations between the base game and cats and dogs, and I think I also used some city living chairs as well. So I just went for something really nice and colorful. And, that's what I went with. I also didn't go too over the top and make things look really, shipwrecked. Like, I wanted it to kind of look shipwrecked, but in an intentional kind of way, not necessarily in like a literal way wherein, every item is like literally like garbage. No, it's like good quality items that were intentionally made to look distressed. And this table right here is a good example. It's the one that came with Get Together. And you guys can see that it has this nice little distressed kind of texture on it. And I don't know, it just looks really nice overall. And once again, just having some mismatched chairs. Yeah, anyway, this little corner right here is where I decided to put this jukebox. A stereo is actually required for bar venues to work. And there's actually two in this venue. There's a jukebox and there's also a DJ bar, surprise. But I also put like this nice little aquarium over here because I just can't help myself. That aquarium is just so awesome. I love looking at that lighthouse over there inside of it and looking at all the fish and stuff. It's just so much fun. So this is where we are doing this kind of like little secluded corner for people who are going on dates. I know that beach bars isn't exactly a place that people going on a date would go to, but you know what, I think that some couples would actually prefer going to casual places like this as opposed to going to like places that are like super formal and super like, black tie and stuff like that. So I just put like a nice little corner over there for a couple, and I'm definitely gonna be bringing my Sims over here when they go out on a date. And this is when I realized that, I can put like a freaking DJ bar. And that's what I did. I've never used a DJ bar in like 10 million years. So I'm just really happy to have that there. And then over here in this wall right next to the bathrooms, I just put like a nice little sink. That one came with outdoor retreat, and then above the sink I put like a bunch of different nautical themed clutter items, and it's just really fun. So like I said, for the bathrooms, I just kept it really simple. Most of the bathroom equipment is actually the same for both bathrooms. I didn't really put a lot of effort, to be honest. I was like, they're bathrooms, they're not that big. I'm just gonna put like a toilet and then toilet paper roll and some curtains, and I'm gonna call it a day. And then the last thing that I realized I needed was a TV. I always forget that you need TVs for bars, so I just got this hanging TV and I put them on top of this like fence trellis thing because I wanted it to look like it was attached to something. And then right next to it, I put like this foosball table because why not? I wanted something to fill in that space a little bit, so I did put a foosball table. I didn't use move objects sheet to put the tables and chairs and also the foosball table, so I do expect it to be functional. So at this point, pretty much most of the quote-unquote interior is done. So we're moving on to kind of furnishing the outside, starting with this trellis area. Yeah, I just put some nice little flowering plants because why not? And then just to add a touch of realism, I got these vents. I don't even know why, because usually these vents, they would be in air-conditioned buildings, but you know what? We're just gonna call it a generator, okay? So yeah, I really, really like the look of these blue picket fences that came with Parenthood. So I found a way to incorporate them into this build. I decided that this side that right here that we're furnishing right now is a little bit more of the back door. That's like the technical term we use in architecture to refer to like places that the public isn't supposed to see. Like it's like the delivery docks and like the, like the utilities and mechanical equipment are located. So that's what that area is supposed to be. And I also put like this nice little sign using the pets sign, and then I put it together with these columns that came with a base game, and they just looked so good. I'm just so happy that I thought of that. I also decided to change the logo in the roof pediment. using these, this beer jar mug inside this life raft thing, and then I exchanged it with like the happy crab. I put it in like the sign that came with pets, and then I think pretty much most of the build is done except for the landscaping, which is what we're doing right now. Let me tell you guys that in all of my years playing The Sims 4, this is probably like the best I've incorporated these palm trees. I think I've mentioned in a previous build before, I think it was like the tropical townhouse, how tricky it was to actually use these palm trees because sometimes they just look really out of place. But in this build, they just look amazing. Like, look at all of them. They just really complemented the build and they just looked really amazing. So I'm just checking. You guys can see me actually just hop in and out of the gallery because I was checking to see if the palm trees were like covering the beach bar. But anyway, I also added an interesting little detail. It's kind of like a nod to my country's architecture in the Philippines. Some traditional houses actually use that texture where that detail, where they put like these crisscrossed wooden peaks on the roof peak. So I kind of use that as a nice little detail because I didn't want the roof to look too normal. So I wanted to do that just to give it a little bit more of an edge to look at. And then for the landscaping, I just went really simple using mostly grass. So we have some grass and some more grass and some weeds and some pampas grass and then some rocks as well and some dead grass. The ones that came with vampire stuff, or the vampires pack I also wanted to add a little bit more color. That's why I chose to add these flower things. And then I wanted to put sand, but before putting sand textures, I put these gravel texture first because gravel would have been a really good base for like sand so that it doesn't erode and stuff, I think. So I put that first, and then on top of it I put like a light sprinkling of sand, which reminds me so much of me sprinkling powdered sugar on top of cookies. I don't know why, but I use different kinds. I use like the normal sand, and I also use the one with like the wavy texture just to give it like that 3D effect. So pretty much at this point, most of the build is done. So the lot traits for this, by the way, are party play, sunny aspect, and romantic, just to give you guys a heads up. But yep, underneath these planter areas, I also put these grass textures as well, so just to give it, that depth and that additional detail that I really like. But it looks like that is going to be it for this build, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up my commentary right here. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.